Hello and welcome to Bethlehem Corner. My name is Janine Santoro and I currently serve as the Director of Equity and Inclusion for the City of Bethlehem. Today we're talking to Sonia Vazquez, the former principal of Dunnigan Elementary School and current community leader. Thank you for joining us. Well, Sonia, thank you for talking to us today. We are celebrating Women's History Month, and as we're seeking to tell the stories of our local heroines, you are someone whose name comes up frequently because of your advocacy work with children and addressing the inequities that they and their families have been facing in Bethlehem. For those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background and the road that led you to things like seeking appointment to City Council in 2014 and becoming principal at Dunnigan?
It's a long story. It's basically started with my parents coming to Bethlehem, and back then Bethlehem was like a cluster of families that lived in certain areas, and of course my parents came into the area with the Hispanic area, and in time, they too were very involved in the community because it was very community-based. And we eventually ended in the area of 3rd and Hill Street on the south side of Bethlehem. And as my father worked at the Bethlehem Steel, my mother was a stay-at-home mom. But we were in an apartment where eventually the owner sold the apartments to my father, who used to take care of them in addition to him working at the Steel. And through that, I watched him and worked with him side by side to learn the trade of, back then the women did not do plumbing and wallpapering and painting and fixing. But my father was one at the time that he always told us you need to know how to take care of yourself. As a family, they helped other families in the area to come in and be able to afford to be in an apartment. I don't recall them ever in all the years, and they had the apartments, I want to say over 30 years, they never put the rent up. And it was always, let's give them an opportunity to come, get them on their feet until they're ready to move on. And that was very important to them, and I think living that and being very involved with the church and with our culture. We had a huge family, and family at the time was not just family, it was anyone that was involved in our lives. They were our family. Coming through the system, the school system, we went to St. John's. My parents were very religious, mostly my mother, but it was something that was practiced at home, and we lived it. And I saw the inequalities that were happening with our people in schools and my friends and ourselves. And I knew it wasn't right. And at the time, you didn't talk about that. You didn't bring it up. I had to figure out how was I going to deal with this. So within our own community, we had people in our community. We had women who were very powerful, like Irish Syndrome, family, Mary Cologne, just on. And in the church, there were many women who took on roles of leadership and kind of paved the way for us to be able to think that way. My father was very strong in education. They did not have a good education. He only went to 6th grade, my mother at 4th grade, but they insisted that we were going to college. And they did. I don't know how they did it with the little money that they had, but somehow we all went to college, and we had to find something that we loved and had a passion about. And they supported it, whatever we chose. My brother chose the police. My sister chose medicine, I chose education. So it was a natural transition. And once I got into the field, there too, I noticed that there were issues. It wasn't equal for all. And we had to find a way to fix this. Yes, I ran for City Council because clearly I learned that if you were not in a position of change, you could not make change. So being a teacher was I loved it. I still am close to many of my students, and they're adults and grandparents. But in that position, I couldn't make change. So I had a mentor, which is very important nowadays. You have to have mentors. So you can't just move on and continue what you want that you think is right. You have to remember those who are there and bring them along with you and continue to support them so that they too are preparing for the future. I had a mentor at Brockwell, Joe Santoro, who saw something in me which I never imagined that I could be a principal. And he pulled me in one day when he became principal and said, "Would you be my assistant?" And I was just like, I thought he was going to fire me that day. And I was so taken back by, "What do you see in me?" And he says, "You're strong, you understand your community, you're family oriented, you know, your people come first, and you don't make excuses for them." That was the beginning. And from that point on, always engaging with other people, because you can't do it alone. You have to have partners, you have to have the community behind you. So I made it a point to make sure to get into the community. The parents became engaged because they saw the successes and they were able to be a part of it. That's what completely changed everything. So having school, people never attend anything, it turned into 500, 600, 700 people, everything I had. But what we had to do was provide them with the means, food, bring your family, because they're not going to leave them at home. That's not how we are in our culture. And we had to do it around their time, not my time. And it worked. And the kids became engaged, and we had to give them the opportunities. The kids first, and we gave them opportunities that everyone else in every other school had, just because we couldn't have that. We didn't have the money. So if money was the problem, that's what I went to look for. And I found many, hundreds of partners who are willing to work with me to make change.
And what is your advice for some of us that are trying to forge forward in our vocations?
Find something you're passionate about and don't stop. Don't let anyone stop you. Politics cannot stop you. It could slow you down, it could throw roadblocks in front of you, but it can't stop you because there's always a way around it. Surround yourself with positive people who believe like you do, who will encourage you and bring you up. You cannot be lazy, because if you are passionate about something, it's a 7-day-week job. I mean, I gave up my life for many years, and I'm okay with that, because the end result is what's important. It's got to be about family. It's got to be about culture. You can't forget those pieces. And it's got to be about equality. You know, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are someone's equal. You're human. And I think what we see in the world now, especially with COVID and with Ukraine, is we're people. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You know, love them. Expect the best from them, and you will get that back. Stand by them. Don't direct them to do it. If you're not willing to work as hard or harder next to them, you're not going to make it happen. You're not going to be a good leader. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Sonia, we're so grateful you could talk to us today. Happy National Women's Month to you, and we're just so grateful that you could be with us today, sharing your story and inspiring us to keep moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you.